After nearly an hour of successful persuasion, deception, and insight rolls, your party is finally able to meet with a local burgher and known front to a criminal organization, until your friend, Garl Strongjaw, insists that he is bored and takes his great axe to, quote, unquote, cleave his worthless head from his shoulders. He rolls his dice. Rolls the first nat 20 of the evening. Congratulations, you have slain the merchant and are now in initiative. If that scene sounded familiar to you, then you are probably suffering from something that I have suffered from for a very long time, which is creating entertaining roleplay encounters so that we can keep our hack and slash players engaged. Thankfully, I have a simple formula that we can use to provide guidance and insight for us as dungeon masters and world builders, so that when we're building and fleshing out our roleplay encounters, or even just making them up on the fly, this formula is a simple guide for us to use so that as we're creating our roleplay encounters, it will be straightforward, to the point, and entertaining and engaging for our players, so that even our hack and slashers who want to cleave his head from his shoulders are a little bit more entertained and invested in the story, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. The first thing for us to consider whenever we're building a roleplay encounter is, of course, the setting. The reason that we need to consider the setting is, remember, for most of us, this is a tabletop role-playing game, or we're working in the theater of the mind. Especially in a role-play situation, we don't have pieces on the board or anything like that where, oh, I can see that he looks distressed. Oh, I can see the perfect environment. No, we have to create this setting for our players. Otherwise, they have no idea what's going on. And when we do create this setting, we are going to be better able to immerse our players and let them know what exactly the situation is. Because in this situation, I think our friend Garl Strongjaw probably didn't understand the intensity or the meaningful nature of this roleplay encounter. They just saw a guy that was in the way of the situation, just nix him. Ways that we can better describe our setting are use our senses. We have to keep in mind, our players don't know what the room smells like. They don't know what the room looks like. They don't know what they hear. Please describe that to them. And we don't have to be so descriptive as to go down the list and, oh, you smell mildew and you hear the sound of crickets chirping. No, we don't need to do that much, but give them one or two things to go off of, right? Because what that inevitably does for us is it sets the mood of the setting. What is the intensity of the moment? What is the vibe that I'm getting from not just the setting, but from the person that we're role-playing with, from the NPC? Is he concerned, right? We can always describe this. We don't have to make them roll perception. People are people. Humans are humans. You can see on someone's face, hey, he looks pretty emotional right now. I would describe that emotion as frustrated or scared or nervous or determined, right? We can throw any number of emotional descriptors onto an NPC, and that will instantly give our players better insight into the mood and the vibe of the setting, right? Remember that, the vibe really matters, because if we can describe the atmosphere, not just what they feel, physical perception, we can give them mental insight, right? There's a difference there, and it's really important, right? It's not what you hear, it's what you understand. And for those of us that need a way to quantify this, an actual formula, I would say always provide or strive to provide two physical senses. What do you physically sense? The room feels cold and you can smell a hint of vinegar in the air. In addition to that, we can have one mood or atmosphere or vibe descriptor. As you enter the bar room, it feels subdued, right? Kind of give the just general feel, right? So 2 of one of the other, And that should be a good start. The next thing that we really need when we're entering any roleplay encounter, we need a secret. Now, a secret could be any number of things, but I would primarily call this a hook, right? This is going to be something that the players can find, right? If they make a great persuasion roll and they find a secret, right? This is what really creates the depth within your world, right? When we're creating depth, we want to create two layers deep, right? That way, anything past 2 layers, that's okay, but that's extra work. But once you hit 2 layers, you have achieved the perception of depth. And what I mean by the perception of depth is that you have given the players enough information, 1 or 2 layers worth of information, to give them the perception that they are on the right path, they have found the information that they're looking for, and then they have a path forward or somewhere to go. That way they're not just going to sit on this roleplay encounter and inevitably Garl Strongjaw is going to get bored and cleave his worthless head from his shoulders, right? So by giving them information, right, we know that all of the amethysts lead to this merchant, right? The next thing is they've interrogated this merchant or worked enough information out of him, however they want to role play that. They could, with a small exchange of coin, get a little information, possibly. We give them, they said that it was for a ritual. So now we know, this was just a criminal organization. Now there's some occult going on behind it, and that it was happening at a warehouse down by the docks, right? Give them a name. The Forsworn, I don't know. It was for a ritual. Whatever you want to do there, right? But by giving them, this is what they came with, right? This one piece of information. By giving them layer 1, they're like, okay, that's good. Giving them layer 2, that is the point where your players think, okay, we have a path forward, right? We know what we need to do. We need to go down to this warehouse and we're going to find out what they're doing with these amethysts, right? That is what gives your players the perception of depth, right? They have found the secret. That's it, the end. And by finding the secret, they can leave the guy alone. And if they're not going to leave the guy alone, then that's probably just the group that you've got. But otherwise, they're going to leave the guy alone and they're, all right, here's your money. Don't tell anybody that we were here, and they move on, and everybody has a great day. Successful roleplay encounter. The third method that we can use to help our players have a more entertaining and engaging roleplay encounter is to include foreshadowing. Now, foreshadow is really going to be a great tool for creating a feeling in our setting, right? The whole point being to let our players see, right? And that's not just like, let our characters see. No, to let your players, the people sitting at the table in the room with you, or your readers, whomever is consuming this, to let them see what happens when certain things take place. And the way that we do that is with just general activities that they see in town. Okay? If your players or your audience, your protagonist, is entering town to perform a heist, right? And upon entering town, they can see, we see this very often, the bodies in the cage, right? The raven cages and stuff. That lends foreshadow. This gives severity and intensity to negative consequences. This lets your players know, the actual people consuming the story right now, know that there is a consequence. And the consequence to their action may not be, man, is that how you spell consequence? And the consequence to their actions may not be what they expect, right? In the example of Garl Strongjaw, he cleaved the merchant because he was tired of the situation and wanted to move on, and probably didn't understand that there was going to be consequence to that activity. But if you went into town and as you're entering town, You see that the guards at the gates literally just kill a man in the streets because he fought against them, or he stole from somebody else. You instantly know, oh man, everybody at the table knows, oh goodness, we don't want to mess around with the town guards or do anything to rile them up, because if we do, roll initiative. Okay? We know what will happen. This is just a way to tell your players, hey, there is a mood, an atmosphere in this town, and people that do things similar to what you guys like to do suffer these consequences. Okay? So it's not us being like super heavy-handed with, hey, if you perform vile deeds in this location, you're going to have problems with the police and you're going to be arrested and possibly killed. All right? We don't need to say that. We can just show them. We don't need to tell them. We can show them. As they're entering town, there's a man with a sign hung around his neck that says horse thief, and he's hanging upside down by his toes from the gate. Good heavens, like what? That instantly tells your players, hey, don't do things because the town guard is serious here. Okay? And that provides instantly a mood and an atmosphere for our players to behave themselves during a roleplay encounter so that they can find the secret, which is just a hook for a side quest, right? This is a quest encounter. Roleplay encounters are also known as quest encounters. The whole point here is to get them to the warehouse eventually, right? That's part of our plot. We want them to get to the warehouse. We need them to have a meaningful roleplay encounter here and not get so bored or unengaged that they just end up killing or pulling a garl and killing the merchant before you're able to get the information to the players, right? So, foreshadow is important. It's a way that we can help our players understand that there's going to be consequences for their actions. This is 3 easy ways that we can help our players have more engaging and entertaining roleplay or quest encounters by providing a setting. 2, maybe 3 things that they actually physically, their characters would perceive. 1 thing that their characters would feel about the setting. Have a hook, right? This is have a secret made, not just 1 layer deep, 2 layers deep, something for them to actually feel like they have discovered. This is what's going to give them direction forward and a way out of the roleplay encounter. And then having foreshadow gives our players an idea of the consequences of performing poorly in this roleplay encounter. Don't tell them though, right? Remember, we need to show, not tell. And if you show your players and don't just tell them, oh, hey, if you do bad things, then the cops are going to come after you, show them, then you are going to find that your players get more out of roleplay encounters. And this doesn't have to take a long time, right? A couple of rolls give your players opportunities to insight and deceive and persuade, right? Because some of those players, they want that opportunity. But really, this could just be a meaningful conversation with that burger merchant or a librarian or literally anybody in your world. And as you do these things, you're definitely going to find that your hack and slash player, Garl Strongjaw, is not going to be so intense about wanting to separate heads from shoulders because he's bored, right? You've provided them enough information that they can have that meaningful roleplay encounter and then move forward with their story. I hope that this tool is useful to you as a dungeon master, as a writer, as a world builder, and that you find ways to make your role-playing encounters more meaningful to you and to your players. Please like and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.